fellow Dominicans living at home and abroad, residents, visitors, friends, and well-wishers. I speak to you today just shy of 7 months after the passage of Hurricane Maria, an ordeal described by some as a night from hell. Though we have provided weekly updates along the way, I felt that the time had come for a more comprehensive and meaningful reflection of where we are today, what progress we have made, what challenges we face, and where we are heading. It took 6 weeks for the experts and external agencies to quantify what we could see and feel that morning. Their figure for loss and damage is easy $3.5 billion. Damage featured in all areas, in housing, schools and other public buildings, roads and bridges, agriculture, electricity, telecommunications, water, sanitation, and tourism. This is the kind of total destruction that you cannot easily recover from. It is understandable why some fled. Amid the debris, however, the majority stood firm and chose to fight. Unshaken, but with new resolve, we declared on the floor of the UN General Assembly on 23rd September that Dominica was going to be the first climate-resilient nation in the world, and we began hatching the plan to get us there. That evolving plan had 3 components: relief, early recovery, and building a resilient nation. We knew there would be elements of each of these components overlapping at any one point in time, but the first phase was to be concentrated on relief. The second phase would have continued relief efforts, but there would be an increasing shift in focus to early recovery and planning for the third phase. The third and last phase would be executing a substantial climate resilient building program. We knew that relief would be a complicated coordination process, given the large number of agencies and ministries involved. To give one example, before Maria, our ports handled an average of 80 containers a week. After Maria, we were bringing into our damaged ports over 300 containers a week. This is why, just a few days after Maria, we asked the UNDP to assist with the coordination of crisis relief, and in particular, with the work the International Organization on Migration, ourselves and others were doing to get food, water, and shelter to those most in need. We all remember those first frantic few weeks. Today, relief efforts continue, but they are now mature. Approximately $141.5 million has been approved for various aspects of relief and early recovery components, including establishing access to communities, the provision of food, water, shelter, and other basic needs. Some 69,000 individuals now have access to safe drinking water. 39 out of the 42 damaged water supply systems have been provisionally repaired, and repairs on the remaining damaged systems are nearing completion. Presently, only 4% of our population is relying on water trucks, and we are working hard on bringing that figure to 0. All primary and secondary roads have been cleared. Temporary access from the Hillsborough Bridge to York Valley is ongoing. The EU-funded road project from Bois d'Arbre to White River has recommenced and is ongoing. Extensive dredging works have been undertaken along the Picard, Checkall, Roseau, Fontbower, Colibistry, Collio, Jubla, Salisbury, St. Joseph, and Bacatel Font-Saint-Jean rivers, as well as the Castle Comfort, Loubier, Tatan, Lodbourg, and Sibuli ravines. Dredging works will continue along the rivers in Roseau, Collio, Bacatel, Colibistry, Louisville, Coptal, Picheley, and River Estate, and works will commence at the Melville Hall and Belfast rivers, all in preparation for the next hurricane season. We have installed bailey bridges at Fontbower, Castle Comfort, and River Estate, strengthened and extended the Botica Bridge, and are engaged in ongoing works on the bailey bridges at Wharton Waven, Taberry in La Plaine, Font-Saint-Jean, Geneva, and Granby near the primary school. Within the next month, work will begin on installation of a bailey bridge at White River, and we will commence work to repair the Blenheim, Bath Road Goodwill Link bridges, the Issy Loblac Bridge, and the Dominica China Friendship Bridge. Repairs to the Melville Hall, Coptal, and Loubier bridges are also ongoing. Designs have been completed, and it is government's intention to begin works shortly on the construction of the additional 4 sections of walls along the Roseau River, from the Bath Road Goodwill Link Bridge to Issy Loblac Bridge on the northern and southern sides. The West Bridge to the Friendship Bridge, southern side, and the Friendship Bridge to the seashore on the southern side. These interventions are expected to significantly reduce the risk to the city of Roseau and Pottersville in the event of unusually heavy and sustained rainfall. In a subsequent address, I will update you on progress made for the redesign and rehabilitation of a number of roads connecting areas of key economic activity around the country. Suffice to say, however, the government will embark on a comprehensive road maintenance program very soon. Our main ports are open and back to the electricity grid. Compared to where we are, food is generally available with our local market fully functional. As a matter of fact, bananas and plantains are available for sale at the Roseau market. Our hucksters have resumed exporting to other islands. In the 12-point economic plan, we announced on 6 October, 2 weeks after Maria, we explained that once food and water became more available, we would switch from distributing food to delivering cash payments. Over 7,550 vulnerable households have so far benefited from these payments, including 6,000 children. Beneficiaries were selected on the basis of the government's public assistance program and the vulnerability needs assessment carried out by the Ministry of Social Services, Family and Gender Affairs, and village councils. The purpose of switching to cash payments was to support the purchase of goods locally and to encourage farmers to resume planting as quickly as possible. We have launched an offensive on the displacement of workers due to the hurricane. To date, 510 applications have been received, and job placements for some will commence this month. We have targeted the creation of 1,200 jobs in the public sector, and I am pleased to report that all the positions have been identified, including 100 new positions for the police force. We have announced in our 12-point plan a grant assistance to farmers. An amount of $18 million was disbursed to them under that program. Separately and additionally, we provided seeds to more than 1,450 small farmers across the island. The Ministry of Agriculture also made grants of equipment, tools, fuel, and in the case of fishers, ice, all geared towards helping us to switch from a dependence on food aid to local production. Some 375 cooperative members are participating in a training program and will receive conditional cash transfers. 11 cooperatives are receiving agricultural material for greenhouses, fishing, and beekeeping under the Joint Emergency Agricultural Rehabilitation Program. The 12-point plan sought to maintain domestic demands as much as possible and to provide employment and cash flow. In accordance with the plan, the government has prioritized maintaining public employment and salaries, and its National Employment Program has provided over 31,200 workdays of employment. The 12-point plan achieved its objectives, and so we are now firmly in the second phase, one of continuing relief, but with an increasing focus on early recovery and detailed planning for the rebuilding of a resilient Dominica. Our recovery task is so broad and far-reaching, and our resources so limited that we have had to relentlessly prioritize the plan. As announced earlier this year, I am pleased to report that a draft bill for the establishment of the Rapid Response Social Recovery Agency will be tabled at the next sitting of Parliament. The bill is to speed up delivery of approved assistance to those in need, especially in cases of medical emergencies. We have conducted a number of rapid and more detailed needs assessments and vulnerability mapping. It will not be a surprise to you that the result of this exercise has been a focus on getting our schools and health centers functioning as soon as possible and housing the most vulnerable, while at all times building back stronger. Consequently, 13 schools have been rehabilitated. The roofs of the Baroness Scotland Primary School, Collio Primary School, and Girardel Primary Schools have been repaired. Materials for the roofs of 6 buildings at the State College have been provided, and work will commence soon. At the Woodfordale, Castle Bruce, Ben's Primary Schools, Dominica Primary Secondary School, Portsmouth Secondary School, and the Northeast Comprehensive School, repairs are ongoing, while work has just started on schools in Concord, Sinico, Paybush, and La Plaine. Similarly, work is ongoing on rehabilitating 17 critical health centers and 3 of the 4 buildings at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Completion for most of these projects is slated for the end of April. At this juncture, I must take time to highlight the heroic efforts of the entire health team for the restoration of our health services in the quickest possible time, and the efforts to ensure that there was no major health crisis and or any outbreak of dangerous infections or diseases. I really want to thank the entire health team, because in any disaster like this, one would have expected an outbreak of some disease or the other. So hats off to you, my dear citizens. The Chinese ambassador and the embassy staff have returned and will soon commence normal operations. With advanced teams already on island, activities on construction of the new National Hospital, the rehabilitation of sections of the Eau-les-Blancs Highway, and the completion of the York Valley Bridge project will continue. By the end of next week, 4 medical specialists will arrive from China to strengthen the delivery of medical services here in Dominica. This month also, the agricultural team for the 7th phase of cooperation on agricultural project should arrive in Dominica. We are and will remain forever grateful to the many international partners and agencies who have come to our aid since Maria struck. They have been instrumental in providing relief, technical assistance, and logistical and financial support to many of the interventions that were necessary to see us through the relief and now the recovery phase post-Maria. We are indeed very grateful for your generous continued support. Building homes, my dear citizens, is expensive. Resources are finite, and time ahead of the next season is short. The World Bank-led post-disaster needs assessment estimated damage and losses in the housing sector at around $1 billion. To assist in speeding up re-roofing and repairs of homes, we have contracted with the government of Cuba to provide us with 100 skilled workers. They are expected to be on island within the next 2 weeks. We are currently rehabilitating 60 of the new urban homes in Bafa State and Emzo. We have so far spent over 32 million EC dollars on repairing of homes, and we have allocated World Bank funding to help repair a further 1,000 homes for our citizens. The Bellevue Chopin resettlement project has resumed and is progressing apace. In keeping with our policy of building back better, we are focusing on supporting the rapid replacement of roofs with training, climate resilient designs, and materials. To this end, we have bulk purchased $17.3 million of building materials to assist homeowners with their renovations, with several homeowners benefiting thus far. Of course, there are many who lost everything and who cannot reasonably be expected to rebuild to our satisfaction on their own. To assist as best we can, government has initiated a pilot housing building program where, in the first instance, we are constructing 1,000 homes at various sites across the country for allocation to the most vulnerable families on conditions to be finalized. The reality is that some families do not have the wherewithal to rebuild, and our assessment teams, comprising independent and agency-connected appraisers, will assist with the allocation of these houses and in determining the terms and conditions of transfer. 20 pilot houses have been commissioned, 10 in Point Michel and 10 in the Canandaigua territory, 2 of the areas affected by the wrath of Maria. I am pleased to report that 10 of these houses will be made available to deserving families on Friday, 13th April, at a ceremony at Point Michel. The other 10 are under construction and shall be ready for handing over very soon. The suppliers of the technology used in the construction of these climate-resilient units are in the process of establishing a production facility here in Dominica to fast-track not only the 1,000 contracted homes, but also to assist with the provision of high-quality, rapidly produced buildings for private dwelling, as well as office and other commercial use. In this rebuilding phase, there will be the introduction of several other new technologies in the provision of housing solutions for our people. Already, there are concepts in place for the creation of apartment accommodations in the eastern communities. The designs have been completed and contracts have been signed for the construction of a total of 400 apartment units in eastern communities. Additionally, we shall unveil very soon a comprehensive housing program for the residents of Roseau and other parts of the country. Fellow Dominicans and friends, we know that everyone in our community is carrying a heavy burden. With limited resources, our focus has to be on the most vulnerable in our society. Simultaneously, we are introducing programs to return the economy to full health and helping others to recover. Interest rates for the facilities established at the Aid Bank in support of tourism and agriculture have been lowered to 2%, and repayment periods extended from 10 years to 15 years. A highly concessionary line of credit in the sum of $15 million has been made available to manufacturers to stimulate recovery of the sector and return it to normal operations in the shortest time possible. Despite the government's straitened circumstances, fiscal incentives have been made available through Invest Dominica Authority, and we are seeing the rebuilding and refurbishment of our hotel plans such as the Fortune, Secret Bay, Pegua Bay, and Tambourine Tree. Construction of the Kempinski and Jungle Bay resorts has recommenced and is proceeding satisfactorily, and the construction of the Anichi Resort has commenced. To support the return of tourism, we have prioritized the repair of major visitor attractions, trails, and facilities. 90% of our major sites have been rehabilitated. We have revamped our marketing and introduced new products such as volunteerism tourism. We have negotiated with the cruise lines to bring back their lines as quickly as possible. The first cruise ship docked at Roseau on 25th January, just 4 months after Hurricane Maria struck us, and we must commend all concerned for this great effort. Separately, over 200 yachts participated in Yachty Appreciation Week in February. To facilitate the unimpeded inflow of relief supplies, including foodstuff, clothing, and furniture, we exempted payment of VAT, customs service charge, and environmental surcharge on selected items. We went on to waive import duties, taxes, and VAT on the commercial importation of food. This was followed by the waiver of these duties and taxes on the commercial and non-commercial importation of building materials. These concessions came to an end on March 20. However, to allow homeowners and the private sector more time to obtain the resources and materials to recover or rebuild their homes and businesses respectively, the import duty on building materials imported privately or commercially has been waived until June 19, 2018. Today, we are also in deep preparations for the next phase, the building of a climate-resilient Dominica. This involves the development of a national climate resilience and recovery plan. The ministry with the responsibility for planning, economic development, and investment is coordinating the development of sector plans by the various ministries that will feed into the Greater Resilience Recovery Plan for Dominica. The Clinton Climate Initiative is also working with a local international team to develop an integrated energy resource plan. The purpose of this plan is to evaluate the optimum proportion of hydro, solar, and geothermal energy to be plugged into the grid, which areas of the grid need to be undergrounded, and which areas of the country may be better served by a microgrid. All projects identified under the NCRR plan will need to be coordinated. To achieve this, we have committed to the creation of a Climate Resilience Execution Agency for Dominica, CREED. That agency will play the critical role of planning, coordination, and implementation to ensure timely delivery of the projects. CREED was launched on the 9th of March, 2018. This launching is a precondition of its funding by the UK and Canadian international development agencies. It is intended that CREED will receive parliamentary approval as a statutory body. I hasten to add that every country that has experienced a major disaster created a similar type of entity to bring direct focus to the rebuilding process. Because we have to appreciate that while the public service, for its limited capacities, have to continue running the affairs of the country as was the case prior to Maria, we also have Maria issues to deal with within the public service. And it is the government's view, based on advice, it would be advisable and beneficial to the country to have that special entity which will assist the government in executing its programs for the people of Dominica. So the CREED is fully supported by the government and by the international agencies. So ladies and gentlemen, the world is intrigued and inspired by what we're doing in Dominica. International development partners have pledged around $1 billion of funds for climate resilience infrastructure projects. This will in large measure be coordinated by the CREED. The upcoming Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London, the IMF World Bank meetings in Washington, and the just concluded Clinton Foundation's meeting in Miami and elsewhere are occasions that are scheduled to showcase Dominica's plans and actions. All of these are further opportunities to raise new money, new resources and ideas to help us fully fund the final phase of our plan to be the first climate resilient nation in the world. There is no plan that will be fast enough when faced with the total disaster we have experienced. But I can report that our economic plans are on track. Relief is maturing. Early recovery is well underway. Fellow citizens, friends, Dominica is rising. To facilitate and indeed spare this rise, I consider it necessary at this time to also review the structure of government and the deployment of human resources across the system. This will be a phased refashioning and redeployment lasting over the course of the next 12 months. However, today we shall start with the Cabinet of Ministers. In a few weeks, we shall consider the redeployment of permanent secretaries and other very senior public officers. The Cabinet of Ministers, as currently constituted, has worked steadfastly and selflessly in the pursuit of rebuilding of lives, property, and infrastructure over the past 6 months. Each member has played a crucial role in the recovery effort, and today, just a mere 7 months later, the record of achievement is there for all to see. But the period ahead is even more challenging, and I consider it necessary to make a few adjustments to ministerial portfolios in the hope of fostering greater synergy and efficiency, and to position ourselves to better respond to the needs of our citizens. For example, there will be a twinning of tourism and culture. I believe that programs falling under the ambit of the Ministry of Culture should better be coordinated and marketed as part of Dominica's tourism product. So too is a natural correlation between the provision of healthcare services and social services to all residents needing such services. You will see in the new cabinet portfolio allocations the introduction of a new key portfolio of ecclesiastical affairs. This is a direct response to the calls by many for a much deeper incorporation of Christian values and principles into every walk of life, including but not limited to, the functioning of government, and especially in the everyday management and operation of our schools. There will be a minister of ecclesiastical affairs, and that person's remit shall involve the strengthening of relations with the church, as well as the incorporation of religious studies and programs into all facets of the society, not least of which will be our schools. I strongly believe that much of today's crime and other antisocial behavior stems from a real and perceived dumbing down of the role and involvement of the church and related institutions in nurturing values and influencing lifestyles and attitudes. I am very excited about this new construct, and I look forward to a much closer and stronger relationship between the government and the church, and for society as a whole to benefit from the expected transformation that will be derived therefrom. Another area of the new interest and excitement in the reconstituted Cabinet of Ministers will be the elevation of the all-important matter of the environment, disaster mitigation, and climate resilience. I believe that together, these matters have to be the full-time preoccupation of a member of the Cabinet. Also, Dominica is in the forefront of international climate resilience focus, and I consider it necessary to appoint a minister specifically for crafting and coordinating our efforts in this regard. Therefore, there shall be the creation of a new ministry of the environment, climate resilience, disaster mitigation, and urban renewal. One other significant feature of the newly constructed Cabinet of Ministers shall be the fact that I, as Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, shall assume ultimate ministerial responsibility for the vital housing sector. I believe that housing in the next 2 years is critical to the success of our national rebuilding objectives, and I, therefore, will, as of Thursday, 12 April, assume ultimate responsibility for housing and lands, even though there shall be a minister in the Ministry of Housing and Lands dealing with the day-to-day operations. Two other significant features of the new Cabinet of Ministers I am about to announce is the introduction of the post of Deputy Prime Minister. I believe that the time for this has come, not necessarily from a successor perspective, as I do not believe the issue of leadership is something that can be bequeathed from one leader to another. However, I believe that for matters of continuity and seamless transition in the day-to-day functioning of government, there is benefit at this time in my naming a Deputy Prime Minister, who shall not only act as Prime Minister in my absence from the country, but who shall also be tasked with several administrative functions in the harnessing and coordination of the various ministries. That individual, incidentally, shall also be assigned the all-important portfolio of agriculture, food, and fisheries. Because, just as housing will be overseen by me as head of government, I want also to send a strong and clear signal to the agricultural community that that sector will henceforth be overseen and spearheaded by none other than the new Deputy Prime Minister of the country. So yes, housing and agriculture shall be the two key pillars overseen by the two most senior members of the new look Cabinet of Dominica. The final feature of the Cabinet that I will shortly announce is the inclusion of a relatively new face. New to the side of government, that is. Honorable Joseph Isaac made known last week his decision to become an independent member of Parliament. I met with Honorable Isaac on my return to Dominica last Thursday, and I discussed with him and his delegation from the constituency of Roseau Central their plans and vision going forward. In my statement last Wednesday, I made known my intention to foster a meaningful working relationship with Honorable Isaac, as he had expressed a desire to adopt a more open and objective attitude and approach to the issue of governance in the country and the policies and programs of the government. Consequent upon our meeting last Thursday, and after consultation with senior members of the government and the governing Dominica Labour Party, I subsequently contacted Mr. Isaac and extended to him an invitation to serve in the government of Dominica in the capacity as a Minister of Government. Honorable Isaac, after consulting with his key advisors, accepted that invitation and will therefore feature in the new look cabinet of ministers that I'm about to announce. Honorable Isaac has not at this point joined the Dominica Labour Party, but he has satisfied me of his focus in wanting to help the people of Roseau Central and to put his skills and services at the disposal of the government in the building of the new Dominica. He shall therefore, as of Thursday, 12th April, serve as a Minister of Government in the service of the people of Dominica. I take this opportunity to publicly congratulate Mr. Isaac and wish him every success in his new posting. Fellow ladies, fellow Dominicans, ladies and gentlemen, I am not yet a lady for sure. Against the backdrop of the foregoing preamble, I now wish to outline the new look cabinet of ministers of government of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Investments, Housing and Lands. Honorable Reginald Austrie, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries. Honorable Levi A. Peter, Attorney General. Honorable Dr. John Colin McIntyre, Minister for Public Works, Water Resource Management and Ports. Honorable Joseph Isaac, Minister for the Environment, Climate Resilience, Disaster Management and Urban Renewal. Honorable Dr. Kenneth Darrow, Minister for Health and Social Services. Honorable Senator Miriam Blanchard, Minister for Planning and Economic Development. Honorable Senator Robert Tong, Minister for Tourism and Culture. Honorable Catherine Lady Daniel, Minister for Ecclesiastical Affairs, Family and Gender Affairs. Honorable Justin Charles, Minister for Youth, Sports and Constituency Empowerment. Honorable Reuben Blackmore, Minister for Justice, Immigration and National Security. Honorable Senator Francine Barron, Minister for Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. Honorable Ian Douglas, Minister for Trade, Energy and Employment. Honorable Peter Saint-Jean, Minister for Education and Human Resource Development. Honorable Rosalind Paul, Minister for Commerce, Enterprise and Small Business Development. Honorable Kelva Daru, Minister for Information, Science, Telecommunications and Technology. Honorable Cassius Daru, Minister for Kalinago Affairs. Honorable Johnson Drygo, Minister in the Ministry of Housing and Lands. Honorable Ivor Stevenson, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Social Services. So, my fellow Dominicans, I thank you once again for your love of and devotion to country. We have made considerable strides over the past 6.5 months. The task going forward is less daunting, but not less demanding. We need to unite as a people in the service of our country. My ministers and I shall henceforth redouble our efforts to spare the recovery and rebuild phase of our development. We need all hands on deck in this country. No one truly knows what the new hurricane season has in store for these islands of the Caribbean and further afield. But I want us here in Dominica to be fully prepared. We will accelerate infrastructural works to meet the challenge, but it is positive attitudes that will, at the end of the day, determine our rate of success. I am very optimistic about the future of Dominica, and I implore you to be as well. Once united and firmly resolved, we can and we shall weather all adversity. So may God continue to guide, protect, and care for us all. May God bless the government and people of our beloved country, Dominica. I thank you and I bid you good night. Thank you very much.